Hello, this is episode 2 of the Stanley Parable. Bucket only challenge.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Oh, please. Are you really just doing this for the achievement? Click a door 5 times. Is that all that you think an achievement is worth? No. I can't just give these merits away for such little effort. A measly 5 clicks. Now suppose you were to click the door 20 times. I would say that's the kind of effort that warrants recognition. I have to say I'm still not feeling the satisfaction of witnessing true effort for a noble cause. Perhaps 50 clicks will do it. Yes, almost certainly 50 clicks. No, I'm still not feeling it. I want this achievement to have meant something. It has to be a true reward for valiant effort. I want to see some hustle, Stanley. I want to see commitment, a willingness to go all the way, no matter what the cost. Why don't you go put 20 clicks into door number 417?
417. We gotta go find 417. 417? Alright, mission find 417. Bucket, you're coming along.
Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
Here's 417.
Okay, great. Now, go touch the bucket on door 437 a few times.
437. Is there one over here? Yeah.
Yes, now we're getting somewhere. How about door 415? Give it some bucket love.
415. Okay, 415. Where are you at? 415. 415 should be like right here.
Now back to door number 437.
437.
You know, I think the copy machine needs some attention. Why don't you rub the bucket on it a bit? All right, back to room 417. I'm really feeling it now. I think we're getting somewhere. Okay, now bring the bucket on top of employee 419's desk. Yes, this is great. Now the bucket knows exactly what it's like to be employee 419. Now, let's introduce it to door 416.
416. 416. 415. What the? There ain't no 416. I am looking for this 416.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Where's Where's my 416?
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find out. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
No. I'm looking for 416.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd.
Where's my
now
bucket?
He felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious,
What the
he
hell?
exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me!
Bucket,
The
I'm
bucket.
coming. I'm coming,
Could it truly
bucket.
be? He rushed forward from
Buckets?
room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his.
What
None of
the
them were his
bucket?
special bucket.
Where's my bucket?
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
None of these are my
He had to
buckets.
find the bucket. He had to return to his
Bucket.
old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along.
What?
It was incredibly painful.
Bucket?
Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for
That's
this.
my
There were
bucket.
a myriad of
She
confusing
stole my
problems
bucket.
she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself.
I know that
"My
handle.
life kicks
She
ass."
stole my
And she
bucket.
backflipped all the way to work.
Backflipped all the way to work.
All of his
Grab my
co-workers
bucket
were
real
gone.
quick.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded onward. Oh, please. Are you really just doing this for the achievement? Click a door 5 times. Is that all that you think an achievement is worth? No,
Yes.
no. I can't just give these merits away for such little effort. A measly 5 clicks. Now suppose you were to click the door 20 times. I would say that's the kind of effort that warrants recognition. I have to say I'm still not feeling the satisfaction of witnessing true effort for a noble cause. Perhaps 50 clicks will do it. Yes, almost certainly 50 clicks. I'm still not feeling it. You see, now that you've gotten the bucket involved, my standards have gone up.
What?
Merely clicking a single door is no longer enough. Now, I want to see you press this bucket against multiple doors.
What?
Now, that's the kind of thing that merits an achievement. Why don't you put 20 bucket touches into door 417? Okay, great. Now, go touch the bucket on door 437 a few times. Yes, now we're getting somewhere. How about door 415? Give it some bucket love. Now back to door number 437.
437.
You know, I think the copy machine needs some attention. All right, back to room 417. I'm really feeling it now. I think we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, same thing. 417.
Okay, now bring the bucket on top of employee 419's desk. Yes, this is great. Now the bucket knows exactly what it's like to be employee 419. Now, let's introduce it to door 416.
416. This is where I got stumped. 416. 416. 416. I'm gonna spam these doors until it works.
Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment.
Well, 416, I have to go this way. 416. What? Wouldn't... Where is my 416? I may have to search this one up. Alrighty. It's phone time. Door 416. This thing is like actually for some reason impossible to find. How to find door 416. Walk up to the boss's office. Then back out before the door.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the
I'll do
bucket
that
guiding
achievement
him?
later.
Yes, this is certainly
I'll have
the
an
most
episode
logical
just for
explanation.
that achievement. I haven't done one of the endings anyways over here, I don't think.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate.
What?
It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket.
Yes.
Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read,
Well,
Mind Control Facility.
there's this big thing called escape. I want to leave, so I'm
Although this
escaping.
passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
I don't believe that. The bucket is my Lord and
The
Savior.
door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Geronimo! I won't die. Me and the bucket are inevitable. I said that completely wrong. But we're invincible.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be.
No.
To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
I can never die? See?
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws.
I'm not
In a
dead.
single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death.
What? Oh. I'm fine. Is there a way to get around here? Nope. Haha, you can't kill the bucket.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
What? What happened to my bucket? Welcome, the bucket welcomes you to the grand exhibit. Can I get a bucket somewhere? Is that a golden
Can you
bucket?
see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley
bucket
will
with
ever
two
be in
handles.
his short life?
25 buckets. I think that's a little bit more than 25 buckets. Inferno bucket. I want the bucket. The stress bucket. What the cave bucket is this? If you want to read any of them there.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Never. The bucket is mine. The hanging bucket. Well, I'm jumping down. Did I grab the bucket? Please.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong.
What?
Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Ow. That's stunned. Or not stunned. Stinged.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps Stanley cradled the bucket in a
My
gentle
bucket.
embrace. Protective, yet delicate. Assertive, yet compassionate. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his
Nope.
chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
Nope,
But
it's the
Stanley
correct
had
way.
felt the bucket calling to him,
No, I
telling
don't.
him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
I can't
And
hear
here
you.
it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind.
The
bucket
bucket's
was wrong.
never wrong. Telling
Stanley
you to go
took the
this
door
way.
on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Nope.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Yes, bucket.
Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket
What
was speaking
bucket?
to him.
You
It
want me
should
to
have
jump
alarmed him,
off?
of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact.
Aye,
He was
bucket.
firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Danger everywhere. Okay, bucket. I trust you, bucket.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see?
What?
There's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point."
I don't care.
Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket?
Yeah, what is
I
a
suppose
bucket?
that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not
What?
addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on
What?
your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket.
What?
Please, step in here for a moment.
No. I don't want to go in there. Let me go through the door that says no buckets. Hello? Is this a
Now then,
bucket?
I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket?
I think so.
Incorrect.
What?
It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
No!
Item 2. Is this a bucket?
I think so.
Incorrect.
What?
It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
No!
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
I'm colorblind, so yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is a bucket.
This
Item
is a
4.
difficult one.
Is this a bucket?
It's a bucket. What?
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's
No,
an
that's a
enormous
bucket.
machine that tills the earth. I
Nope.
thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible.
That's a
Let's
bucket.
just move on to the next one.
That was a bucket.
Is this a bucket?
Another hard one. Yes, it's a bucket.
Correct.
See.
This is a bucket. Item 6. Is this a bucket?
No.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha. Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here.
No.
And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore
was a bucket.
nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket?
Yes.
Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
No. My bucket. What?
What happened? Is everything gone?
Yeah, because
Why did
everything's
everything
a bucket.
disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket?
See?
Every single thing in the game was a bucket?
Yep.
Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets.
What?
Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Buckets. That's a bucket, that's a bucket, that's a bucket.
All of his
You're a
co-workers were
bucket.
gone.
You're
What
also
did
a
it mean?
bucket.
Stanley
This
decided to go to
bucket
the
is a
meeting room.
bucket.
Ah,
That computer's a
Stanley's
bucket. The world
only
is
co-worker
bucket.
he would ever truly need. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct
The
way to
walls
the
are
meeting room,
buckets, the
but Stanley
floors
had felt the
buckets, the
bucket calling to
ceilings
him,
buckets.
telling him that the employee
The door's
lounge
a
was simply
bucket.
the place to be.
Bucket.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took
Bucket.
the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Bucket.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room.
Bucket.
Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Yeah, I don't feel like going down there, Mr. Bucket. Bucket? I don't want to fall down there. So I guess we're going down the dark pit with our bucket. Where the hell did I go? Bucket? Holy bucket. What in the bucket?
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore.
What?
The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes.
What?
The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it.
What?
I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms.
You're addicted to the bucket.
Why everything feels so...
Buckety?
What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes.
What?
It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there?
What? What the bucket?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley
This is
decided
gonna
to
be
go to the
last
meeting room.
one.
Is Stanley without the bucket really Stanley at all? No, surely not.
Stanley
I'll do a pretty
clutched the
quick
bucket
one,
tightly
real
to his
quick.
chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him
Yes.
that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Yes, bucket.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go
No.
back to the meeting room.
Bucket.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Oh no, I
But Stanley
tripped.
feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So
What?
he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one
Yes.
another's arms.
Me and the
How
bucket.
deeply touching.
Alrighty. That's it. Bye, guys.